Start with Israel, as reports suggest a significant number of hostages could be freed in the coming days due to mediation negotiations by Qatar. For more on this, I'm joined by Israeli government spokesperson Noga Arbel. Noga, thank you so much for joining me. So, Noga, can you give us an update on what's happening? Because we know that Hamas still have many hostages. What's happening with the Qatari government and their negotiations?
I'm sorry, I'm not at liberty to comment on ongoing negotiations about this issue, very sensitive issue. I can only tell you that as a mother, I can understand how parents of a hostage would be mad with worry for a child that was taken from them by the animals of 7th of October. And I can honestly say that I can relate to anger at the international community for failing the children of Israel and honestly falling at the job of protecting innocents in this conflict at large. And it's important to remember that for Israel, the hostages are a prime objective. Right? Since we're fighting a barbaric terror organization that has lies and deceit woven into its ideology and has deceived us in the past at every turn, the only way we have to try to secure our hostages is to bring the full force of the IDF to bear on them, so they understand they have nothing to gain from holding on to them. As Prime Minister Netanyahu made very clear, there is no place under the sun where anyone holding or hurting an Israeli hostage can escape Israeli justice.
Now, Noga, you must be seeing a lot of the reports of people, of the protests all around the world, of the pro-Palestine protests. I, for one, can't quite understand why a lot of these protests don't mention the hostages and are simply calling for a ceasefire. How realistic is calling for a ceasefire from these protests and from governments around the world?
Well, I think calling for ceasefire is quite frankly destructive. We're fighting an enemy that doesn't care about the lives of Palestinians or Israelis. They've said so by themselves on television time and again. The only reason they would have to deal with humanitarian situation is because they want to ceasefire so that they can rearm and regroup and be more effective at hurting both Israelis and Palestinians. So people who are calling for a ceasefire are rewarding the abhorrent behavior of putting their own people at risk. Hamas has virtually weaponized war crimes. They're putting innocents between us and them so that they're putting innocents between us and them because they know we do not want to hurt them. They're using that to slow down the onslaught against them and to slow down the process against them, knowing full well that if, despite all of our best efforts, any innocent get hurt, they can put them in a report so that the international community will try to slow us down by calling for a humanitarian ceasefire. Anyone who wishes to protect Palestinians should stop calling for a ceasefire and start calling for Hamas to surrender immediately and without condition.
You think so? I mean, I'm wondering why people aren't calling for Hamas to surrender. That's what they should be doing. And I'm with you 100% there. After all, this latest bout in the fighting, they broke what was effectively a ceasefire by the activities on the 7th of October. Now, I wanted to ask you very briefly, because we're running out of time, why is it that Qatar have taken the role as a mediator?
I'm sure Qatar has a lot to gain from bringing this about, but again, I would hesitate to speculate or to comment on it at this very sensitive time in negotiation. I'm sure that if the international community was actually bringing its force on Hamas to bear and wasn't giving Hamas benefits from the fact that they're holding hostages and the fact that they're abusing their own people, it would be a lot easier to bring about a deal. Israel is doing its part, protecting both Israelis and Palestinians. It really is time the international community joined in as well.
Noga, thank you very much for joining me. That's Noga Arbel. She's an Israeli government spokesperson. Thank you very much.